Hello and welcome to Allsop Prop Chat. I am Rebekah Donaldson, a senior surveyor in the residential valuation team, and I am joined by Andrew Wells, our valuation guru of the North, an equity partner. In our Valuation Viewpoint podcast today, we're going to cover the methods of residential valuation, our valuation toolbox, and looking at the market impacts that influence our valuations in the residential market. And we'll wrap up with some key takeaways.
So, Rebekah, what are some of the methods of valuation? This does sound a bit like a university dissertation. We'll try and make it interesting. But what are some of the valuation methods you use in residential valuation?
So the first one, and the one that's used across all of our methods, as well as within itself, is the comparable method. So the comparable method looks at the subject property, and then we gather comparable evidence and look at the similarities between the subject and the comparables for us to be able to arrive at our opinion of valuation. Also, we have the percent to vacant possession approach as well.
Okay, and that's used, where would you use a discount to VP approach?
I guess we would examine this for regulated properties where we can look at auction analysis. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, percent to VP is used much less today than what has been previously. We more look at capitalising an income stream by attaching a yield to the income. This is a balance of the risk and opportunity. And we look at this through looking at comparables in the market and speaking to our agency team.
So you're saying that investors are looking less now at a discount to VP approach and they're more focused on yield?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
It's more of a second check. The initial yield comes first and then the percent to VP is more of a check method afterwards.
Okay.
So, Andrew, what are some of the more sophisticated methods of valuation?
Oh, well, I'm delighted that you've come to me for the sophisticated bits. Well, there are more sophisticated products out there, which does demand a different valuation approach. So term and reversion, I suppose, is one of the key ones, where you might have a lease to a housing association for, say, 5 years or so, and then a reversion to vacant value or the rented value. We'd use a different yield for the secure income stream. Could be very, very attractive yield if it's a housing association of a good covenant, and then a less attractive yield because you're exposing yourself to market risk at the reversion. We use discounted cash flow models, DCF. These are where you have an operating income, usually cash flow of incoming income and outgoings. Might be a 10, a 20, a 30-year DCF. And these are used really for things like student accommodation, for build to rent, for some types of social housing where there is an operating income, and the discounted cash flow brings everything back to a net present value, which is in effect the worth of the asset today.
So looking at the DCF, that's where the comparable method may come in again, where we stand back and we analyse, say, on a purpose-built student accommodation block, where we'd look at it on a per bed basis and see what's transacted in
That's
the market.
really important, because it's very easy to say computer says, the answer is there on paper, it must be right. Well, you've got to always stand back and relate your answer from the computer to actually what's happening in the market. And it's very easy to overlook that. The third and final valuation method we use is the residual approach, which I think would be familiar to most, which is where you have a completed value. You deduct the cost of creating a project, build costs, finance costs, disposal costs, marketing, etc., and the developer's profit to arrive at the land or site value of the development opportunity, which is, if you like, the residue. But as we've just said, Rebekah, you've got to stand back, haven't you? And you relate the land value per acre or per plot to make sure that it fits with market practice. So what have we got in our toolbox?
Well, we have a lot in our toolbox. Probably can't go through all of them.
It's secret in our toolbox. Yeah.
There is. Yeah, we've seen a real increase, haven't we, on the information and checks that we have when we're going through a valuation recently for the safety of the lender when we do loan security valuations.
Yeah, these are led by lenders, aren't they? I mean, they are very risk averse these days. I mean, there's plenty of money available for residential assets, but fire safety, I suppose, is the big one, isn't it, at the moment?
It is.
Checks on cladding, checks on fire risk assessments, and frankly, if you are an owner of a block with cladding, you don't. This would be a separate podcast, to be honest. You probably know how much of a problem it is. EWS forms, all that kind of stuff, is something that we as valuers have to check.
It's so hot in the news right now, isn't it?
It is. What else have we got?
We have flood checks, EPCs.
Yeah.
We've got various licensing, so HMO licensing, landlord licensing.
So quite a lot of local authorities are bringing in this landlord licensing. So it doesn't have to be a HMO, does it?
No, it can be a standard property, which is down to the local authority, and then it's approved by the government.
Okay, and then there's all sorts of compliance checks. So we have to be sure that a landlord has got gas and electrical safety certificates, and that these are up to date. Now, we don't normally ask to see certificates, but we would certainly want an assurance either through the solicitors or from the landlord themselves that those certificates are in place. Now, what other tools have we got sort of online, as it were, that we use to establish value and gather our evidence?
Yeah, so we have lots of them. Not sure how you managed to do it before you had the internet.
We used to ring people up.
So we have Rightmove Plus, we've got LonRes, Land Registry Database, EIG, we have Land Insight. These are all very helpful in supplementing us with additional information, as well as we obviously check this against people, you know, our agency teams and other agents in the market, such as estate agents.
And is that information up to date? How up to date are things like Land Insight or LonRes, Rightmove Plus?
Well, it depends, because a lot of the sales are usually awaiting the land registry to go through, which is it 3 months behind?
Yeah, it's 3 to 4 months behind.
Yeah, although sometimes on Rightmove Plus, the agents are very helpful and put the under offer price on there. I think this is why it's important to check, you know, those properties that are currently under offer, to speak with agents and to see really what is happening in the market.
So we said we'd then cover some of the influences in the market right now. And I think it's probably best to look at negative influences and positive influences. Yeah. And so that we can end on a positive, let's deal with the negatives first, shall we? So there are some things going on in the market right now which aren't particularly helpful to landlords and developers. There's the whole ground rent reform that's going on right now, which, no new leases can have a ground rent that's more than a peppercorn. There's leasehold reform promised, which will ensure that tenants have cheaper and easier lease extensions. The whole licensing regime seems to be getting more traction, so more local authorities are doing additional licensing. And then you've got the whole cladding and fire safety aspect. The building safety bill will become law. And finally, Section 21, this is the ability for landlords to gain vacant possession of an investment at the end of the term of the AST by serving notice. The government has said that they want to give tenants protection, essentially, so that they can stay there without the landlord serving notice. And essentially, the landlord's only options to get vacant possession would be if they wanted to sell the building, or if the lender wanted to sell the property, or if, of course, the tenant has broken the terms of the lease. That's a little way off yet, but it does seem as though changes to Section 21 will be implemented. So those are some of the negatives. What about the positives, Rebecca?
Well, we've had the behavioural changes that we experienced in the market as a result of the pandemic. People are potentially moving out of the city, wanting much more space. And this has really driven forward the house price increase that we've seen in the last sort of year to 18 months. Then we've had, obviously, the stamp duty holiday, which has also been in addition to that, which has drove forward the house price growth as well. which just came to an end on the 30th of June.
Yeah, it's tapered, isn't it, till September?
It's end of September, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then also we've had the implementation of the 5% mortgages, which apparently has had a really good take-up, especially for first-time buyers, which is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've also seen, haven't we, that residential as an asset class has attracted quite a lot of new entrants who perhaps been deterred by the commercial sector. They like the idea of sustainable income streams from residential, the granularity of it all, and it's the whole thing about beds. You know, it's people will need them, good market or bad. So it's set pretty fair, I think, for the residential market.
Yes. So what are our key takeaways, Andrew?
Well, let's just focus on three. I think, firstly, valuation methods have got a little bit more sophisticated, and it isn't appropriate really anymore for an investment to be measured by its percentage to VP. The yield is so much more important these days, and the VP is a secondary check. Secondly, much more due diligence is being done now, unfortunately, by valuers on buildings, really driven by lenders. But even if you're selling a building, you will find that your purchaser wants to see every certificate, every document that's available, and be satisfied, particularly from a fire safety point of view. And then the third and final point?
Well, use a valuer who has good access to market knowledge, who is at the forefront of the market with their agency teams and their auction, i.e. us, and who also is up to date with legislation. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Right. Thank you for listening.